Hello and welcome back to London Cycle Routes. Today I'll be showing you how to cycle from New Cross in South London to Greenwich in South East London. This ride takes just 10 minutes and you can do the whole thing on quiet streets and protected cycle lanes. By public transport you'd probably leave between 15 and 20 minutes to do this journey by bus. So you can definitely save a little bit of time by getting on your bike. It is a really direct route and also really easy, anybody could cycle it. If you find this video useful or you just enjoy watching it, then please don't forget to hit the subscribe button on the channel, as I try to post new videos just like it every week. I'd also like to say a big thank you to all viewers who support the channel on Patreon. If you're feeling generous for the new year and you'd like to contribute as well, then you can find a link in the description below the video. Alright, let's get going. So we're starting on New Cross Road and we're going to head straight down Clifton Rise. This street is officially one way, but Lewisham Council are looking at allowing two-way cycling on it soon, so hopefully they'll get around to that in 2024. In the meantime, you can get up to New Cross Road in the opposite direction using Pagnell Street on the other side of Fordham Park. Alternatively, you can walk your bike up Clifton Rise, and to be honest, in practice, a lot of people are simply going to cycle the wrong way up the one-way street, whether it's allowed or not. By default, I think that quieter one-way streets should be two-way for cycling. Whether it's right or not, a lot of people do treat one-way streets like they're two-way for cycling anyway, and so I think it makes sense to put up the signs and make it official so that drivers expect people coming the other way. Today's video is relatively short, but I think it's worth doing because it's a really neat route that connects two town centres that are geographically quite close, but don't have incredible connections by public transport between them. When I'm in New Cross, I don't feel like I'm that close to Greenwich, but I think you'll be surprised at how quickly it creeps up on us. We've mostly been on completely traffic-free paths so far, so just a reminder that these are shared spaces with pedestrians, and you should treat them with respect and give them plenty of space. This section of Douglas Way is nice and wide, but just a note that a popular second-hand market does set up here a few days a week, so it can be really busy, and I don't think you're supposed to cycle through the market, so you may have to get off and push for that short section. Its times and hours are Wednesdays, Fridays and Saturdays from 9 AM till 6 PM. Talking of time closures, if you look at the blue signs here, you'll see that Giffin Street here is what's called a school street. That means that it's closed to cars at pick up and drop off times on school, so basically peak driving hours, which makes it nice and quiet to cycle down at times when traffic could be at its worst. This section of pavement here is shared, so you are allowed to cycle on it, but it is very, very narrow. You can see this is a toucan crossing for both pedestrians and cycles, and it leads straight into the Crossfields estate. Now you want to bear left of the wall here, as there's a little drop curb on this side and there isn't one on the other side. An interesting fact about the Crossfields estate that we're cycling through now: during the late 1970s, members of the band Dire Straits actually lived on this estate. Now if we turn left here, we're going to pick up a signed cycle route, and that is Cycleway 10. You can see it's written on the ground here. This path and the bridge is interesting. It's called Halfpenny Hatch, and the reason for that is because the old wooden bridge across Deptford Creek here was tolled by the landowners, and the toll was half a penny or a halfpenny. Interestingly, it wasn't the only place in London with that name. There was also a halfpenny hatch around Waterloo, which was a tolled footpath between Westminster Bridge and London Bridge. The hatch in the name seems to refer to the toll booth itself, which had a little window in it, or a hatch, where you would give the money. If you look at the ground here, you'll see these shared space signs, which indicates that you're allowed to cycle on the pavement there. But we're going to quickly turn into Lovibond Lane. I've always quite liked this street, but it's a bit of a mess at the moment with all the building work. However, I would point out on the right here the Vietnamese sandwich shop Banh Mi Leo, which in my opinion does the best banh mi in London. Now, we've arrived at Greenwich station, but I'm going to show you how to get into the town centre because the station is a little bit out of town. I've actually dismounted here and I'm walking my bike because you're not allowed to cycle through the middle of the station, which is kind of fair enough. It's a pretty narrow tunnel and there's people rushing to get the train. But when we get to the other side of the station tunnel, you can get back on your bike. And we're going to head right on this street just round the back of the station called Tarves Way. Now, there's an interesting bit of history on the street coming up. We're about to cut through onto Straitsmouth. And if you look on the right here, you'll see the wall is a slightly different colour. It's a lighter shade of brick. The reason for that is that Straitsmouth actually used to extend to the other side of the railway as well. It originally went underneath the viaduct, but that was bricked up in 1997 when the Docklands Light Railway was extended. The road was cut in two, and the orphaned section of Straitsmouth on the other side of the tracks was a couple of years later renamed K Way. Why am I telling you this? Well, partly because it's interesting, but also partly because that had the effect of removing through traffic from Straitsmouth, which kind of turned it into a sort of an LTN. Had the DLR not blocked the road, that would probably be a pretty popular cut through for drivers coming from the Gyratory to Greenwich High Road. Anyway, we are now here. We've arrived in Greenwich, and I think, like I said at the beginning, that was an impressively direct and quick route for two town centres which don't always feel like they're right next to each other, but when you're on a bike, you realise that actually they are. That's a really local route and one of the shortest routes I've done on the channel. Do let me know in the comments what you think of that, the good, the bad, things that you think could be improved about it, and things that you liked about it. One thing that I didn't have time to mention when we were there was that the crossing into the estate which we used near the beginning of the video is actually going to be improved, or hopefully it will be, as Lewisham Council is consulting on putting protected lanes on Deptford Church Street, and as part of that project they're going to improve that crossing, which will make this journey better as well. But anyway, this will be the last video that goes up in 2023. I can be sure of that because it's going to be published on New Year's Eve. I suspect many people won't be watching it on New Year's Eve, so if you are watching this one after midnight, then Happy New Year to all of you. If you're not already subscribed, make sure you hit subscribe so you see new videos as I post them. All subscribing means is that I pop up on your YouTube homepage a little bit more. And a massive thanks again to everyone who's supporting the channel on Patreon. If you're feeling generous and you'd like to join them, there's a link in the description below the video as well, where you can chuck us a couple of quid a month to keep the channel going. Thanks so much again, Happy New Year, and I'll see you all again next time.